Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We started our discussion about these financial markets and institutions yesterday. I told you that how important these financial markets are in the modern world, specifically because uh, we have got, the countries which are ruling the world. They basically are ruling through the financial systems, and these financial systems are, of course, having quite so much influence on the working and the performance of the overall world. And this financial markets institution, of course, is an important subject, especially in the uh, this. You have got this a problem of the voice. It does is everybody can listen to my voice? Zarna basically has got a problem with my voice.
No, sir, it is clear.
All right, thank you very much. So Zarnab, if you could check your own systems and you could just re-log in so you can get away with that problem. Okay, so we were talking about these financial systems, and these financial systems are important, of course, for the modern world, because in the modern world, everything uh, is connected to each other, and especially the countries are connected with each other through their financial systems, and because there is always a continuous linkage of these uh, uh, countries basically through trade, and these trade transactions are all made the financial transaction for these all trade are made through financial systems. If they don't have got a strong financial system, they are not able to definitely meet with the requirements of the modern world. All right. So we looked at the chapters preview. We only were able to look at the preview of the system. This lecture basically that we are going to talk about the function, structure, internationalization, and intermediaries, and like we shall be talking about the regulation of the financial system. Now, what is the basic uh, objective or the function of a financial system or financial markets? You have two different kind of people existing in the economy. One is the person, one type of the person basically are the people who have got some surplus funds, and there are some people who actually need extra funds, they, for example, say for example, there are so many people whose income is more than their expenditures, so they can save some money, and whatever the money they save they want to lend to somebody else. And to lend that money to somebody else, they need some kind of place, and the place actually is provided by the financial market. The financial market provide the place for the people to to park their money, like the people park their money into the financial markets. And what do the financial markets do? They basically use that money to give it to the other people. So in a way, what the financial market does, the financial market channelize funds. Financial market channelizing fund mean, they takes fund from the one place and just give it to the other person. So it channelizes funds from one person or business without investment opportunities, that is lender or saver. Like, say for example, you can think about a person who has got retired recently. He has got money from his organization, which he wants to park somewhere, park in the sense, he wants to use or he want to place somewhere. If that person keeps that money in form of cash, he is going to lose that value of the money very quickly, and he will not be able to get any advantage of it. So what he does basically, he gives that money to some financial market or financial institution, and what they do basically, they give that money to somebody else. So in this way, many things happen. The very important thing happens is that it improves economic efficiency. If you remember yesterday, we were talking about this economic efficiency. By the economic efficiency, we means that your resources should not be wasted. Like the money that you keep at home is of no use for anybody. Like, be it is you or anybody else, it is not going to be of use for anyone if the money is kept at home. You cannot get any advantage whatsoever from the money if you are keeping that money at home. And but if you keep that money at the bank, or you keep that money at the mutual funds, or you keep that money at some kind of other financial markets, you can get return on it, first of all. And what these financial markets will do with that, they will use that money to lend it to somebody, and whoever borrows that money will be able to use it for the production purposes and for other kind of purposes, and that will improve the economic efficiency of the overall economy. And that is very important, that you basically have that the role of this function of the financial markets. The very important function of the financial market is that they channelize funds from person or business without investment opportunities to one who actually have got the opportunity for investments. देखिए पूरी दुनिया में जो entrepreneurship है, this entrepreneurship is flourishing because of this financial system, because the banks give loan. आयशा इसको डोडलिंग ना करें भाई प्लीज. So lenders, I was telling you, okay, this basically this financial system improves the the economic efficiency because it improves the allocation of money. So the very first important, the basic function of the financial market is to channelize funds from savers to investors. It actually the people who are able to save, actually their money is given to those who actually want to use that money for the productive purposes. I was telling you about the entrepreneurship. All over the world, this entrepreneurship is flourishing just because of this financial markets, because they are basically providing them money, and that's where the seed financing and venture capitals are available, which are helping them to grow and just get the advantage of that money. Now, who are the lenders and savers? Lenders and savers could be anybody, like anybody who is saving money, or anybody who is having a kind of a money. He or she will be basically it could be a household, it could be a business firm. Business firms also keep some cash for investments. Governments also have got some money to which they can save from their operations. Similarly, the foreigners who are in your country from other part of the world, they might also have got some money available for which they want to keep with the bank. So they can be lenders and savers, and the borrowers can be all of them as well. Like the businesses firm also borrow, households borrow, governments borrow, and foreigners also sometimes borrow to meet their requirements. So they both the both kind of people basically can be from the households, firms, government, or any kind of other foreigners. Now, if you look at the financial markets, like when you make investments, you can make investments in two ways. Either you make investment directly, like say, for example, you go to stock market, you buy a share of a company, you open your account yourself with a kind of a broker, but you don't ask broker to buy or sell for you. You just make your transaction yourself. Or similarly, like say, for example, what you do, you have got some money, somebody comes to you and you just lend this money to that person. This is kind of a direct financing, or you basically invest in some kind of a business, or you give that money to someone as a borrowing, as a loan to somebody. So this is a one way of making investments. Another way is that you don't do it yourself, rather you take help. Like say, for example, if you want to sell your house, there are two ways of selling your house. One way is you yourself find a person who wants to buy the house. You find him, you arrange an agreement with them, and you basically sell the house and you get the money. The other way is that you involve some state agent. What will the state agent do? He will actually meet the two parties, the people who want to buy and the people who want to sell. He will make the transaction and he will help you in facilitating all those transactions. So similarly, when you make investments, you can do both ways. Like, say, for example, either you go directly or you go indirectly. So indirectly, when you go, you basically have got some kind of banks and other kind of financial institutions available that can help you in getting these things done. So if I ask you this question, that you being an investor, what would you like to do? Would you like to make investments directly, or would you like to prefer indirect investments?
Direct investment.
You will be
Sir,
making direct
direct
investment.
investment.
Oh, good.
Direct investment.
Indirect investment.
अच्छा अनुषा, why indirect? आप एक की आवाज आई आपकी, indirect investment. अनुषा, why indirect investment? Did Anusha say about the indirect investments?
Yes, sir.
Gee, why did you say that?
सर क्योंकि उसमें सेफ सिक्योरिटी होती है ज्यादा और
Right. And anybody from the people who said the direct investments, like say from Muqaddas or somebody else?
सर डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट ज़्यादा बेहतर होती है, बिकॉज सर इसमें अगर हम किसी और को ऐड नहीं करते तो हमारा जो प्रॉफिट होता है वो डायरेक्ट होता है।
तो रिस्क
वरना
भी तो
जो
डायरेक्ट
हमें
होते हैं
अपना
आपके मुकदस।
प्रॉफिट।
लेकिन ये रिस्की भी बहुत होता है सर, और इंफॉर्मेशन वगैरह का भी थोड़ा डाउट होता है ना।
वेरी ट्रू, वेरी ट्रू।
एंड फिर इनडायरेक्ट फाइनेंस ज्यादा बेहतर होगा, क्योंकि जो है आपको उसमें बैंक की तरफ से सम मोर प्रॉफिट मिल रहा होगा। एक टाइम पीरियड के लिए हमारी जो इन्वेस्टमेंट है उससे एक्स्ट्रा मिल रहा होगा इन रिटर्न। तो इनडायरेक्ट ज्यादा बेहतर
जी
होगा।
वेरी गुड। देखिए फॉर सम ऑफ द पीपल बेसिकली डायरेक्ट लुक्स वेरी गुड, लेकिन पूरी दुनिया में people don't prefer making investments directly. Of course, I'm not saying that nobody does it. So many people basically make direct investments as well, but generally people are not like, do not like to make direct investments because direct investments involve direct exposure to everything. This is also correct from the people basically who think that direct investments are good, that you get the whole profit, but you also get the whole losses. And you also exposed yourself to the whole risks. Like say for example, if a company where you have been making investments actually like broke down, so what will you do? Like your whole money will go, and you will be actually bearing all the risks of that particular kind of a breakdown. And similarly, like if you are on the oppositely, like or in contrast, if you make indirect investments, the risks are diversified. Like what happens is, if you give money to the bank does not have got the money that is available like from you. It has got money from so many sources, so it has got a very large portfolio. What do they do with that portfolio? They diversify it. Like say for example, अगर आप बस में ट्रैवल कर रहे हैं और आपकी जेब में पैसे हैं, तो आप कोशिश करेंगे उन पैसों को आप डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करें. Like say for example, you don't want to keep all that money at one place. तो
यस सर।
तो जाहिर है आपको कोशिश करेंगे कि आप उसको डाइवर्सिफाई
Yes,
करें.
sir, agree.
जी जी बिल्कुल. आपके जो है वो you will not like to have got all the money in one kind of a purse or one kind of a pocket, because if you lose if somebody actually sneak into that particular kind of a place, you would lose everything. And similarly, like that happens with the investments as well. And we'll be talking a lot about this. And even in the US, where investors are quite educated, where education about the financial transaction is big or is more, they still don't like to make direct investments or direct financing. But again, some portion of that investments all over the world is made directly. So we cannot say that the direct finance is zero, but still if you look at the uh, contribution of the indirect finance, it is bigger than the direct finance anyway. Now, this is a kind of a diagram, which is a quite self-explanatory, which actually, provide you a kind of an idea. You may have a direct financing to the financial markets. You can give directly to the people, money directly to the people, and somehow you can also use financial intermediaries. So these are the financial intermediaries. Say, for example, you use them and they basically try to bridge the, they come in between this, here. So they come here and they basically, take funds from these people and give funds to these people. They both are like same people sometimes same in the sense from the same sectors, so they can basically, so they do it like this, so it's easy. So when you make indirect financing, obviously you share your profits, but you also share your risks. You are not able to, you will not have to bear all the risks and all the losses yourself. And moreover, your expertise can be lower or can be lesser than the expertise of the people who are running the financial intermediaries. Like say for example, if you are investing through a mutual fund, in the mutual fund they have got experts who are basically managing your funds, so they definitely have got better view of the market. They are better trained and they are better aware of the all the happenings in the market, so they take good decisions, and sometimes these decisions pay you well. So this is what basically we have talked about. Okay. Structurally, if you look further into the financial markets, you might have a choice between, when you make investments, you have two choices. Again, if I ask you this question, I can ask this question after explaining you the two kind of markets. One is a debt market, the other is the equity market. Like say, for example, if you want to make if you want to give money or you want to put your money into some organization, what would you like to do? Like, would you like to lend this money to that firm, or would you like to make investments of that with that firm? Like say, for example, if you what happens if you give loan to that particular firm, you only get the profit and you are not concerned with the losses of that particular firm. But if you make investments, you actually have a share in both. Like say, for example, if the company loses money, you also lose money. If the company gains money, you also gain money. So again, if I ask you this question that if you want to make investments in some financial market, will you be looking for the debt instruments or equity instruments? Will you be investing in the debt funds or the debt market, or will you be investing in equity market like stock market or something like that?
Debt market.
Debt market.
Equity markets.
All right. So the person who said debt market?
Sir, I am Ikram Mushtaq.
Ikra, yes. Why do you think the debt market is better than the equity
Because
market?
there will be because there will according to me there will be no chances of a loss. No chances of a loss.
But
So
don't you
I
think
will
it's a
be
very boring
it-
market in the sense that you will be keep getting a particular rate all the day or every time? But the stock market thrills you. Stock market has got obviously chances of losses, but there are also chances of gains. So it keeps you thrilled, it keeps you on your toes all the time. And of course, say for example, if you buy a debt market, if you buy an instrument from the debt market, you get a particular return, but that return is generally very boring in the sense you are just getting every time that return. But in the stock market, you always remain on your toes and you just always keep watching that. Sometimes you make a lot of money, sometimes you lose money as well. But so you don't want to be thrilled?
Sir, I was thinking that इसमें मतलब कोई भी loss नहीं होगा. It will be just profit. मतलब if अगर आप किसी को loan देंगे और आप मतलब उसके return पे आपको ही profit मिलेगा. I was not thinking that it will be loss.
All right, that's good. Anybody anybody wants to answer this question? Do you want
Yes,
more
sir,
thrill or more?
investment is better than
Say again, sorry, Mavish.
इन्वेस्टमेंट बेहतर होगी क्योंकि आपको अगर प्रॉफिट होगा, रिस्क तो है लेकिन प्रॉफिट ज्यादा चांसेस यही है कि प्रॉफिट ही हो सकता है. तो इन्वेस्टमेंट सोच रही हूँ कि बेहतर होगी.
The equity market is better than the debt market, do you think? Okay, so of course वैसे तो खैर we cannot decide anything at this particular point of time, basically, that whether one market is outrightly good and the other market is outrightly bad. There are always some pros and cons of every market. Like say for example, as Ikra said, that if you are having a debt investments in the debt market, you are not going to have losses. You're basically having a particular kind of a profit, and you can be certain that what kind of money that you are going to get at the end of the month. But if you are making investments in the equity market, things basically can go a lot wrong. Basically, you can have at certain point of time you can earn a lot, but you can also lose a lot. So if you don't want to go into that kind of uncertainty in your life, you have to choose this debt market. But the debt market is kind of boring in the sense because you always get the same return every month. That might be good for those people who are risk averse. But if you want to take more risks, you should go to the equity market. And you must have heard this kind of a very the press in the of the financial sector, that more risk means more gains. तो जो रिस्क लेते हैं they earn more. आपको पता है ना, एक डाकू जो डाका मार रहा होता है उसका रिस्क बहुत ज्यादा होता है, लेकिन उसका रिटर्न भी बहुत ज्यादा होता है. अगर उसको डाका सही तौर पे लग जाए उसका तो लाखों रुपए कमा लेगा वो, और नहीं लगा तो फिर वो जाहिर है मर भी सकता है और जेल भी जा सकता है. सॉरी. तो डाका मारने में बहुत ज्यादा रिस्क है और बहुत ज्यादा रिटर्न है. इसी तरीके से बहुत सारे हमारे पास एक्टिविटीज है जिसमें बहुत ज्यादा रिस्क है और बहुत बड़ा रिटर्न है. तो अगर आप रिस्क नहीं लेते हैं लाइफ में, आई एम नॉट आस्किंग यू टू ये खुदा ना खास्ता, आई एम नॉट आस्किंग यू फॉर go and have just do this kind of a bad thing like of equity. Like I'm not, I didn't mean anything like that. I was just giving you an example. Okay, some of the activities that are very, very risky actually can get you very, very high return, and you can actually scale down the impact of that thing on other kind of activities. The debt market, no risk, but gains are very low. Equity market, risks are high but the gains are high, and like you can expect, there are so many people who have become millionaires and billionaires. They have become through the stock markets. Very few people, or almost none of the people, basically have become that big through the debt markets. Debt markets are not very rewarding, because they give you a particular kind of a return every day or every month or every year. So they do not basically give you extra chance to perform, and they do not provide you, it does not you, for investment in the debt market, you don't have to be very clever. You can make, anybody can make investments into the debt market, so it does not matter. So anyway, that is your choice anyway. That is your call. That what do you want, or where do you want to make investments? Either you want to make investments in the debt market or the equity market. When you just go to the debt market, you find two kinds of instruments: short-term instruments and long-term instruments. This short-term and long-term you have also studied. You would have also studied in microeconomics. The microeconomics also tries to explain the decision of a economist in the short run and long run. The short runs are short period where you have got less certainty, less uncertainty, basically. So the long term is the longer period where you have got more uncertainty. So you have got a problems basically which are of long term nature, and you basically, but again, if you make investments for the if you just give loan for a short run, you get low returns, low interest rate. But if you lend for the longer term, you get higher interests. Similarly, the equity market does not pay you interest, you get dividends. And by the dividends, we mean the portion of the profits that goes to the entrepreneurs, or the organization or the owners of the firm. So that is the part of your profit that you get from the the company. So that pay dividends, and you become an owner of a company. The people who buy the debt instruments cannot claim the ownership, but the people who basically have got the shares or who have got the investments in the equity market, they can claim their ownership. They basically become owner of that particular firm, and they basically are part of the their ownership, and they basically share the profits of that particular firm whenever they get these profits. So again, the choice is yours. Similarly, structurally, the financial markets can also be divided into primary and secondary markets. Do you understand? Does anybody, can anybody explain us the difference between the primary and secondary markets?
Sir, I can generally tell, but I'm not sure it's very much accurate or not.
It's all right. Yeah, just
The
go on.
primary market is the market which is the first time market. Whenever the shares are sold for the first time, that's called primary. And when they're exchanged by person to person, they can sell on to any person who wants those shares. That would be the secondary market.
Where do you buy the shares first time from?
The stock exchange, sir.
First time.
So first time the company would issue the shares.
And where do you get it from?
We can get it directly from the company.
All right. All right. Anybody else wants to say something about this? What is your name? Farjat.
Yes, sir.
How do you pronounce it?
Sir, it's Farjat.
Farjat. Oh, good. It's a new name for me. All right. Okay, Mohammed Farjat, thank you. Anybody else wants to say something about this? All right, all right. As the name suggests, जिस तरह मिसाल के तौर पर आप देखें, आप बहरिया टाउन में आप प्लॉट लेते हैं, तो जिस तरह इन्होंने बताया अभी कि आपके पास आप जिस तरह स्टॉक मार्केट में जब इन्वेस्ट करते हैं, तो इफ यू बाय द शेयर द फर्स्ट टाइम, you buy it from the company. Like company directly उसको sell नहीं करती. I will tell you that how is it sold. लेकिन say for example if you are buying a plot from Bahria, if you are buying that, like say for example if you have applied for that plot and you get that plot in the lucky draw, you will be the first owner of that plot. You will be buying that plot directly from Bahria town, or you will be buying directly that plot from some particular construction agency or construction company. So that will be, you will be the first owner. But what will you do with that plot? You will sell it later on. You will sell that plot in the open market, and that will be the secondary market of it. Like, that will be like, say for example, if you buy a car from Suzuki, that will be a primary market, but the new car that you have bought from Suzuki is sold in the market for profits and for the other kind of purposes. So that will be the secondary market. Similarly, you have got financial markets, which are primary and secondary markets. Like say for example, when the first time shares are issued, they are issued by the companies, and the companies issue those shares through investment bankers. This is where the role of investment banker is very, very strong, and I would like you to look for your careers in investment banking. They are basically very, very highly paid people, very, very highly paid people all over the world, because they are the people who basically underwrite the shares. They actually provide the chances to the people to, or the organizations, to float their shares in the market. They help them in flotations. They make all the plans. They basically provide them all the platforms. And the first time you buy shares from the banks, like perhaps if you remember in your life that you would have filled some IPO form. IPO basically stands for initial public offering. What happens in the initial public offering? When the companies issue shares first time, these shares are issued through investment bankers, and they are available at different branches of banks. And these branches of banks actually ask you to fill in a form, and that form is called IPO, initial public offering. Like you offer to the public initially, and that initial offer goes to the people, and that initial offer basically is made through the banks. And once you buy the share, you cannot sell it back to the company. The company does not take it back. And what you can do with that share is you can sell that share in the secondary market. The secondary markets provide you liquidity. Like say for example, if you have made investments in a company and you want to withdraw your money, you cannot send or sell this money back. Like say for example, it is as same as that you buy a car from a Suzuki company, and now if you want to get money from that car, or you want to sell that car, you cannot sell it back to Suzuki company. Suzuki company will not buy that car. There might be the dealers who will buy that car, but the Suzuki company itself is not going to buy that car. So Suzuki company will not buy the car, and but what will you do? Or what you can do is you can sell that car in a secondary market. So does it make sense to you guys, right? So the secondary markets are the stock markets. Like say for example, if you go to the I.I. Chandrikar Road, the market standing there, that is actually has got written on its face, the Pakistan Stock Exchange. That basically is the secondary market. The primary market actually is of the banks. The banks basically offer those shares. They fill in the forms. They ask you to fill in the forms, and they basically provide you those shares through different ways. So you make payments to the banks, and these payments directly goes to the companies or investment bankers, and these investment bankers make payments to the companies. So the first time the company issues those shares, and second time you actually sell those shares in the market. So the stock markets are very important market in the world. These stock markets provide a kind of are treated as barometer of the economy. आपको समझते हैं barometer? जो speedometer होता है आपकी गाड़ी का जो speedometer होता है वो क्या बताता है कि how fast your car is moving, how fast your vehicle is moving. So similarly, the stock markets are treated as barometer or speedometer of the economy, and they basically explain that how the markets are how the countries are progressing. So some people agree with it and some people don't agree with it. We'll be talking about that, but somehow that is what basically is understood about this stock markets. Okay, so even though the firms don't get any money per se from the secondary market, it serves two important functions. आपको पता है कि जब आप secondary market में shares को sell करते हैं, the money does not go to the company which actually has sold that shares. But what actually, why the secondary markets exist and how are they important for the companies that have issued the shares? They provide you the liquidity. देखिए liquidity बड़ी important चीज होती है. मिसाल के तौर पर अगर आपने एक गाड़ी खरीदी है और वो गाड़ी आपसे नहीं बिक रही है, मार्केट में कोई खरीदने वाला उसको नहीं है, तो क्या होगा? वो आपके गले का हार बन जाएगी। मतलब आपने गाड़ी खरीदी और आप फंस गए उस गाड़ी को खरीद के। ये ऐसी गाड़ियां होती हैं जो कि इलिक्विड होती हैं। लेकिन कुछ गाड़ियां ऐसी होती हैं जिनको आप मार्केट में लेके जाएं, बल्कि आप वैसे भी उसको आप लेकर घूम रहे हो, तो लोग आमतौर पे पूछते हैं कि भाई अगर आपने बेचनी है तो बताइए इसको, और अगर आप उसको बेचने के लिए निकले तो फौरी तौर पे आपकी वो बिक जाती है। तो ये बेसिकली दैट इज लिक्विडिटी दे प्रोवाइड। तो जिस तरह हमारे पास इस वक्त जो है वो बहुत सारे और बिजनेसेस हैं जो काम कर रहे हैं, इस तरह वावा कार्स है। वावा कार्स बेसिकली प्रोवाइड यू एन अपॉर्चुनिटी टू सेल योर कार्स, एंड दैट्स व्हाट द स्टॉक मार्केट डज. So if you are able to sell your car quickly, you will be not be hesitating in buying new cars. लेकिन अगर आपको ये बात पता हो कि एक दफा आपने गाड़ी खरीदी और आप उसको बेच नहीं सकेंगे, तो that becomes so difficult for you to decide that which car you should buy, because that car is going to go with you for the whole life. If say for example you are not able to sell it back into the market. So something similar happens with the financial markets. The stocks that basically are issued by the companies are traded in the stock markets, and they basically are given the a kind of the opportunity that you can, if you really want to encash your money, if you want to get cash back from the shares that you have invested into the stock market or the stocks, you can get back through the secondary market. And again, they also establish a price for the security, and this price of the security depends on the performance of the company or the demand of that company's shares in the market. By the way, you can ask any questions. You can make any comments if they are important, like you think, or you want to add something to the knowledge that basically I'm giving to you. Please feel free to talk if you want to say something or ask something. It's very important that you basically ask questions when you have got any trouble or you are not able to understand something properly. Please do ask questions, because they will basically help you clarify things which basically might not be clear during the lecture. And when you raise questions, things basically go in bit novel directions, and sometimes we learn new things when questions come from the students. Okay, so if you really want to ask question, and these are the questions for from the chapter, and you really want to understand something, please raise your hand. I'll come to you and I'll ask the question. Okay, so again, structurally, if you look at the stock financial markets, there could be another two types of the distinctions that you can make: exchanges and over-the-counter markets. So ओवर द काउंटर आप लोगों ने शायद बहुत सुना हो, जिस तरह कुछ मेडिसिन होती हैं जो कि ओवर द काउंटर मेडिसिन होती हैं, लेकिन ये कि ये दिस पर्टिकुलर काइंड ऑफ अ मार्केट डज नॉट has not anything to do with that kind of a market of the medicine of the over the counter. Like जिस तरह बहुत सारे आपके पास मेडिसिन में बहुत सारी मेडिसिन ऐसी होती हैं जो कि यू कैन ओनली गेट थ्रू प्रिस्क्रिप्शन। पाकिस्तान में तो खैर ऐसा नहीं होता, लेकिन पूरी दुनिया में ऐसा होता है कि if you don't have got prescription, you cannot get certain kind of medicines, but there are some kind of the over the counter products which you can get without the prescriptions as well, like so. But similarly, it's not like we cannot create any analogy between these two things. But as far as the financial markets is concerned, we have got two types of financial markets. One is called exchanges, the other is called the over the counter market. आपको पता है कि stock exchange जो है, this is an exchange. When you have a particular building which is reading the name of that exchange, जैसे mercantile exchange भी है, इसी तरह हमारे पास stock exchange है. Exchanges are the physical places where the transactions take place. Over the counter is a electronic space, or it is not, generally it is sold electronically, and there is no a particular kind of a market. So if the market does not exist physically, this is called the over the counter market. And if that exists physically, this is called exchange. Like say for example, PSX, Pakistan Stock Exchange, is a physical building situated on IH Chandigarh Road, where you just go and enter, you find people actually trading different kinds of shares and different kinds of instruments, financial instruments, long-term instruments, of course, but you don't find like this way the over-the-counter markets anywhere in the world.
Sir?
Yes, please.
Can crypto be analyzed at over-the-counter market?
Yes, it is, yes. Yes. But cryptocurrency doesn't have got any kind of like particular market. So it's all online. It's all. So do you people make anybody from you make investments in cryptos?
Yes, sir, I do.
You make investments in crypto. Very good.
Yeah.
So I'll talk you about in detail, like later on. That is it paying you well?
Sir, is it actually paying?
Also good, mashallah. Very good. And it's good. You should be experimenting with these kind of things. Not with the large money, but with the small money, you can experiment with it, because you should be investing as much as that you can, bear as loss. So it's good, if we have got somebody who is basically brave enough to make investments in the cryptos, because people generally feel scared, or they are not very confident in making investments. So am I. Basically, I also don't invest in crypto, but it's good to have somebody who basically has got the skills and uh, uh, the temperament to make investments into the cryptos. So it's very good, that. And we'll listen to you later on, how do you do that, and what kind of returns you get. So another way of classification of the financial markets is we will be having a money market and capital market. When you say money market, some of the time students think that this is a market for currency. Money market is not the currency market. The currency market is called the forex market, where you exchange your currency with other currencies. This is called forex market. But the money market is a market where the instruments like money are traded. Instruments like money, आपको पता है कि money has got different characteristics. जो सबसे important characteristic होती है वो money की liquidity होती है. Money की transformability होती है in goods. Like money is used as a medium of exchange. Money can be quickly used, like say for example, if you're hungry, you want to buy something, you can use money. But if you are hungry, नायला इतने शोर में कैसे पढ़ रही है? Please keep yourself muted, bhai. आप इतने शोर में कैसे पढ़ रही है नायला? All right. So the money market is a market, like I was telling you, कि money की सबसे important जो characteristic होती है, the characteristic of the money market is that the instruments that are traded of short-term nature, quickly they can be converted into cash. लॉन्ग टर्म नहीं होते हैं, यानी आपके पास मिसाल के तौर पर एक ऐसा आपके पास इंस्ट्रूमेंट है जिसका मेच्योरिटी पीरियड जो है वो 1 मंथ है, 3 मंथ्स है, 6 मंथ्स है, या एट मैक्स 1 ईयर है. तो 1 साल से ज्यादा के जो इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स होते हैं वो लॉन्ग टर्म कहलाते हैं, और 1 साल से कम जो इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स होते हैं वो शॉर्ट टर्म कहलाते हैं. तो मनी मार्केट इज ए मार्केट वेयर मनी इज नॉट ट्रेडेड, but the instruments like money are traded. Like money means which are liquid in the sense they can be encashed quickly. By encashing quickly means they can be encashed in a small period of time. So similarly, we have got capital market. Capital market is a market of the long-term assets. But the maturity in this market, the bonds that are traded and the instruments are traded in the market have got the maturity of more than 1 year. So they are generally of long-term nature. So the capital market, again, this is your choice, that if you want to make short-term investments, you go to the money market. And if you want to make the long-term investments, go to the capital market or stock market. जैसे आपको पता है कि स्टॉक मार्केट में जो बॉन्ड्स हैं वो 5 साल के भी होते हैं, 20 साल के भी होते हैं, 10 साल के भी होते हैं, 15 साल के भी होते हैं. लेकिन शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट्स में जो इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स होते हैं उनकी जो मैच्योरिटी पीरियड होता है वो 1 साल से कम का अर्सा होता है. तो जाहिर है अगर आप उस पर जो है वो इन्वेस्ट करते हैं तो उस पर रिटर्न भी इतना ज्यादा नहीं होता, लेकिन बहरहाल ये डिफरेंट किस्म के इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स अवेलेबल है आपके पास.
Which type of instrument? Can you give me some examples?
जी जी बिल्कुल. देखें, अगर आप बात करें टी बिल्स की, ट्रेजरी बिल्स की, तो टी बिल इज द, नाम सुना है आप लोगों ने टी बिल्स का किसी सब्जेक्ट में?
यस सर, माइक्रो में सुना.
जी बिल्कुल.
Yes, sir.
मॉनिटरी में पढ़ा है सर.
वेरी गुड. तो आप लोगों ने टी बिल्स के बारे में सुना होगा। देखिए टी बिल्स एक ऐसा इंस्ट्रूमेंट है जिसके जरिए गवर्नमेंट जो है वो शॉर्ट टर्म बोरोइंग करती है। तो टी बिल
Yes, sir.
is a very famous instrument of money market. We'll be talking all other instruments as well. But like, for example, the T-bill is the very famous instrument of the money market. Shares and long-term bonds are the instruments of the capital market. But the T-bills basically are used and traded in the money market. Like government generally borrows for short term from the public and the banks through T-bills. All right.
सर
सर
आप
ये सिर्फ गवर्नमेंट करती है या कंपनीज भी आती हैं मनी मार्केट में और शॉर्ट टाइम के लिए लोगों को टी बिल्स जो है वो इश्यू करती हैं?
देखिए टी
या
बिल्स
सिर्फ ये
स्पेसिफिकली जो है
गवर्नमेंट
वो
करती है?
जी टी बिल्स तो स्पेसिफिकली देखिए ये तो गवर्नमेंट का ही बॉन्ड है। जो ट्रेजरी बॉन्ड्स हैं, देखिए ये ट्रेजरी जो बिल्स हैं, ट्रेजरी बॉन्ड्स हैं, दे आर पर्टिकुलरली फ्रॉम द गवर्नमेंट। लाइक कंपनीज आल्सो इशू शॉर्ट टर्म बॉन्ड्स। कंपनीज भी शॉर्ट टर्म बोरोइंग करती हैं, बैंक्स शॉर्ट टर्म बोरोइंग करते हैं, इंटर बैंक बोरोइंग होती है। जिस तरह आपको देखें ना, इस तरह आपको पता है कि अभी एक आप लोग एक रेट पढ़ते हैं काइबोर। काइबोर जो है वो KIBOR, काइबोर एक्चुअली स्टैंड्स फॉर कराची इंटर बैंक ऑफर रेट। ये वो रेट होता है जिसपे लोग आपस में एक दूसरे के साथ ट्रेडिंग कर रहे होते हैं, शॉर्ट टर्म बोरोइंग और लैंडिंग हो रही होती है। लेकिन अगर ट्रेजरी बिल्स की आप बात करें, द ट्रेजरी बिल्स आर पर्टिकुलरली इशूड बाय द गवर्नमेंट ओनली, राइट? So but the corporate sector also come in the market for the short term instruments, but they have got different names of it.
सर
Yes.
सर ये कैपिटल मार्केट में हम लोग शेयर्स की बात मतलब शेयर्स होल्डर की बात करते हैं ना, स्टॉक एक्सचेंज से
जी।
डायरेक्टली रिलेटेड होता है।
Very much. Yes. आमतौर पे शेयर्स होते हैं, लेकिन इसमें ये लॉन्ग टर्म बॉन्ड्स भी हो सकते हैं। मिसाल के तौर पर सुकूक हैं और बहुत सारे जो लॉन्ग टर्म बॉन्ड्स हैं, 5 ईयर बॉन्ड्स, 10 ईयर बॉन्ड्स, 20 ईयर बॉन्ड्स, ये भी स्टॉक मार्केट्स में ट्रेड होते हैं। लेकिन जनरली व्हेन वी जस्ट थिंक अबाउट स्टॉक मार्केट, द शेयर्स कम इन आवर माइंड एंड द शेयर्स बेसिकली आर ट्रेडेड मेजरली इन द स्टॉक मार्केट्स। ओके जी
सर आपने बोला था इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स लाइक मनी कैन बी कैश क्विकली मनी मार्केट में, तो इसमें लाइक प्रीशियस ज्वेल्स गोल्ड वगैरह आता है या वो डेरिवेटिव मार्केट्स में आता है?
No, neither derivatives nor gold. ये एक देखिए ऐसे बॉन्ड्स, जिस तरह मिसाल के तौर पर एक आप बॉन्ड खरीदते हैं, आप एक बैंक में जाते हैं पैसे रखवाने के लिए, सबसे ज्यादा जो लिक्विड आपका अकाउंट है वो कौन सा अकाउंट है बैंक में, जिसमें फौरी तौर पे आप कैश निकलवा सकते हैं?
करंट अकाउंट।
करंट अकाउंट। अब देखिए करंट अकाउंट सबसे ज्यादा लिक्विड है, उससे कम लिक्विड जो है वो सेविंग अकाउंट है, और उससे कम लिक्विड आपका फिक्स्ड अकाउंट है। ऐसा ही है ना? तो आपका जो इसी तरीके से इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स होते हैं, कुछ ऐसे इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स होते हैं जो कैश होते हैं, जैसे मतलब आपके पास करेंसी नोट है, आप उस करेंसी नोट को जाके इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं फौरी तौर पे। प्राइस बॉन्ड्स हैं जिनको आप कैश के तौर पे इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं। कुछ इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स ऐसे होते हैं जिनको आपको कैश करवाने में 1 दिन, 3 महीने, 6 महीने लगते हैं। कुछ इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स ऐसे होते हैं जिनके जरिए कैश मिलने में आपको 1 साल से ज्यादा का टाइम लगता है। तो जिन पे आपको 1 साल से ज्यादा का टाइम लगेगा वो लॉन्ग टर्म है, जिनमें 1 साल से कम का लगेगा वो शॉर्ट टर्म है। तो जो शॉर्ट टर्म बॉन्ड्स होते हैं उनको हम, उनके अंदर कैरेक्टरिस्टिक होती है मनी की तरह की कैरेक्टरिस्टिक। लाइक आप इसको कह सकते हैं मनीनेस, या आपने माइक्रो अगर मॉनेटरी में अगर आपने ये टर्म पढ़ी हो, नियर मनीज। जिस तरह आपको पता है कि जो डेबिट कार्ड आप इस्तेमाल करते हैं, या आप जो है वो जो इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स इस्तेमाल करते हैं, दूसरे जो चेक वगैरह इस्तेमाल करते हैं, ये मनी नहीं है लेकिन मनी की तरह एक्ट करते हैं, तो इसलिए इनको नियर मनीज बोलते हैं। डज इट मेक सेंस?
यस सर।
Alright, so if you have got any other question, yes please.
बॉन्ड्स पर हमें इंटरेस्ट मिलता है या प्रॉफिट?
इंटरेस्ट मिलता है बॉन्ड्स पे। जब देखें आप अपने पैसे को फ्रीज करते हैं, एक बॉन्डिंग साइन करते हैं, आप एक मखसूस वक्त के लिए आप इंटरेस्ट, आप लोन देते हैं और लोन लेते हैं, तो आपको यू पे इंटरेस्ट एंड यू रिसीव इंटरेस्ट।
तो सर वो शेयर्स मार्केट में ये इंटरेस्ट जो है,
अच्छा देखिए इसमें
क्या
सॉरी
companies
मैं
को
इसकी और
देते हैं?
क्लासिफिकेशन आपको कर दूं। जिस तरह सुकूक बॉन्ड है, ये इस्लामिक बॉन्ड्स हैं। तो कुछ बॉन्ड्स ऐसे भी हैं जिनमें आपको प्रॉफिट मिलता है, सूद नहीं मिलता, लेकिन ये कि जनरली जो बॉन्ड्स आते हैं उसमें आपको इंटरेस्ट मिलता है। जी बोलिए, आप क्या बोल रही हैं? आप कुछ कहना चाह रही हैं? ऑलराइट, सो दिस इज द इंटरनेशनलाइजेशन ऑफ फाइनेंशियल मार्केट्स। आप लोगों ने ग्लोबलाइजेशन के बारे में पढ़ा है?
यस सर।
Yes, sir.
जी बताएगा कोई आप में से, रोहा, जिस तरह अगर आप बताएं ग्लोबलाइजेशन के बारे में।
सर कंट्रीज जो आप जो बहुत ज़्यादा डिपेंडेंट है एक दूसरे के ऊपर में, ट्रेड के ऊपर में, लाइक अभी ग्लोबलाइजेशन काफ़ी ज़्यादा अफेक्टेड था जब कोविड हो गया था, बिकॉज लाइक हमारे पास ट्रैवल नहीं हो रहा था, लोग आप तो एक्सचेंज नहीं हो रही थी चीज़ें काफ़ी ज़्यादा।
ऑलराइट ऑलराइट, ये नाम काफी नए नए यार, मुझे बड़े मतलब इंटरेस्टिंग लग रहे हैं। इसलिए रोहा, रोहा इज ए न्यू नेम फॉर मी अगेन। रोहा, आपके नाम का क्या मतलब है?
सर लाइफ, जिंदगी।
अच्छा, गुड गुड। ओके, एनीबॉडी एल्स वांट्स टू टॉक अबाउट ग्लोबलाइजेशन? Anybody else wants to say something about globalization? Yes, Mavish.
सर जैसे कोई प्रोसेस जैसे बिजनेस और अदर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन डेवलप करें इंटरनेशनल इन्फ्लुएंस को और ऑपरेटिंग स्टार्ट ऑपरेटिंग एंड इंटरनेशनल स्केल, यही कुछ वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमी को ग्लोबलाइज किया जा सके। हाँ,
All right. अनुषा, आप बोले। CR, अनुषा।
सर
जी मुकद्दस बेटा।
सर लास्ट क्लास में सर आपने बताया था एवरीथिंग इज ग्लोबल नॉट ओनली द ट्रेड। यानी सर अब जो है वो हर चीज ग्लोबल हो चुकी है, सिर्फ नेशनल करके इंटरनेशनल, चाहे वो ट्रेड हो या फिर अदर ट्रांजेक्शन्स हो, तो एक कंट्री का दूसरी कंट्री के साथ कनेक्ट होना, इसे हम ग्लोबलाइजेशन कह सकते हैं।
ऑलराइट, गुड इनफ। देखिए, ग्लोबलाइजेशन इज अबाउट रिमूविंग दैट बैरियर्स। अब पूरी दुनिया जो है वो,
यस सर।
देखिए इस तरह, अगर आप मिसाल के तौर पर अगर आपको पूरी दुनिया, जिस तरह यूरोपियन यूनियन है, अब यूरोपियन यूनियन में एक तमाम जगह पे, अब मिसाल के तौर पर जो कंट्रीज उस यूनियन में शामिल होते हैं, उनके लोग एक दूसरे के साथ ट्रैवल कर सकते हैं, एक दूसरी जगह पे ट्रैवल कर सकते हैं। उनकी बहुत सारी जो ममालिक है, उनकी करेंसी भी एक ही जैसी है, तो वो उनको एक्सपेंडिचर्स करने में भी उनको जो है वो इश्यूज नहीं आते। तो ग्लोबलाइजेशन का मतलब होता है ट्रेड बैरियर्स को रिमूव करना, मेकिंग ट्रेड बैरियर्स जीरो। ट्रेड बैरियर्स क्या होते हैं? इस तरह मिसाल के तौर पर अगर आप कोई चीज इंपोर्ट करें इंडिया से, अमेरिका से, चाइना से या किसी और मुल्क से, तो आपको ड्यूटी देना पड़ती है। समझ में आ रही बात आपको? तो गवर्नमेंट जब ग्लोबलाइजेशन होती है, जब आप एक इंटरनेशनल कम्युनिटी का, WTO का पार्ट बनते हैं, तो आप बहुत ज्यादा वो टैरिफ चार्ज नहीं कर सकते। आपके पास लिमिटेशन होती हैं और आप उस लिमिटेशंस को आप नहीं क्रॉस कर सकते। तो ग्लोबलाइजेशन का मतलब ये है कि नाउ आप देखें, आपके पास अमेजोन अवेलेबल है पाकिस्तान में। नाउ दिस इज अ वेरी बिग साइन ऑफ ग्लोबलाइजेशन। इफ यू वांट टू बाय समथिंग फ्रॉम द US, you can do it. If you want to buy something from China, you can do it. If you want to buy something from UK, you can do it. So this is globalization. Now the world has become a global
सर
village.
इसे ट्रेड ब्लॉक्स भी कहते हैं मेरे ख्याल में ना
जी
सर।
जी बिल्कुल।
ट्रेड
ब्लॉक्स
ब्लॉक्स
तो बेसिकली बनते हैं इसलिए हैं ताकि ट्रेड को फैसिलिटेट कर सके।
सर एक क्वेश्चन था, आपने कहा सर कि जब जब ट्रेड बैरियर हटाते हैं तो हमारे पास जो टैरिफ लगते हैं वो कम होते हैं।
जी जी।
तो सर जब हम कोई चीज बाहर से मंगवाते हैं, यानी हम चाइना से मंगवाएं या US से मंगवाएं, तो सर ट्रेड बैरियर तो नहीं है, बट हमें बहुत एक्सपेंसिव क्यों पड़ती है फिर वो?
नहीं, ट्रेड बैरियर्स तो है ना। देखें, बहुत सारी कंट्रीज, ये दरअसल अमेरिका खुद जो है वो लास्ट डोनाल्ड ट्रंप के दौर में उसने बहुत सारी इंपोर्ट्स पे चाइना से बैरियर्स लगाए, टैरिफ्स लगाए। और दुनिया में इस वक्त जीरो बैरियर्स नहीं है, लाइक देयर आर सो मेनी बैरियर्स।
ओके सर, ओके सर।
Sir,
जी
is European Union like they do globalization because there are no trade barriers between when they are trading with each other?
say again, I'm sorry Farjad, can you say again?
Sir, the countries in European Union engage in free. There are no barriers, so that's
Yes.
globalization.
That is very much, of course, that is a very good example of the globalization, because like they are basically like it does not matter that from where you are buying, so you can buy as low as like you're buying from own country. So it's like it's something, this is what basically the world is working towards, but somehow they have not been successful as yet. There are some kind of like the people have cut down so many tariffs and quotas and other kind of things, but still like that's the world has not become a zero tariff world, because every country has got its own foreign policy, and Pakistan basically, like, Pakistan is having its own trouble, so Pakistan is using this policy to stop import of so many things. So although like they cannot do a lot, they cannot control or restrict all the inputs, because ये तो punishment strategy पे मिलती है। मिसाल के तौर पर अगर आप किसी और कंट्री की इंपोर्ट को बैन कर दें तो वो कंट्री आपके कंट्री से इंपोर्ट को बैन कर देगी। तो इन दैट वे द थिंग्स बेसिकली गेट लॉट वर्स। डोनाल्ड ट्रंप के जमाने में चाइना और अमेरिका में बहुत ज्यादा जो है वो डिस्प्यूट्स थे। तो चाइना अमेरिका imposed tariffs on Chinese imports and China imposed tariffs on American imports, so it was getting so worse. But somehow things, basically the globalization is about bringing economies like together and making trade easy between the nations, like without tariffs, without quotas. So similarly, the financial markets have also become global. Now you are like, say for example, देखिए पहले ऐसा होता था कि आपकी जो अपनी लोकल इन्वेस्टमेंट्स थी वो डिपेंड करती थी लोकल सेविंग्स पर। But now you have got local, you can even raise money from other countries. So that is what basically internationalization of financial market is about. And when you issue instruments in the international market, there could be different types of instruments. Like say for example, the world has got one currency that is very popular and that is very powerful, and that is dollar. But every country does not use American dollar. Of course, America only uses American dollar. So, but if you issue a bond in China in dollars, like you want to borrow in dollars, but you are issuing a bond in China, this is called euro bond. This euro bond, अच्छा मैं आपको एक और बात बताऊं, देखिए ये जो यूरो है, आपको पता है कि व्हाट इज यूरो?
सर करेंसी
जी
सर
ये बिल्कुल करेंसी है, लेकिन एक बात याद रखिएगा कि यूरो बॉन्ड का करेंसी से कोई लेना देना नहीं। यूरो बॉन्ड का करेंसी से कोई लेना देना नहीं है, मतलब यूरो बॉन्ड का उस करेंसी से कोई लेना देना नहीं। मतलब इस बात का यह है कि जब हम बात करते हैं यूरो बॉन्ड की, तो इसका मतलब ये वो बॉन्ड नहीं है जो कि यूरो करेंसी में इशू होते हैं। ये वो बॉन्ड है जो कि एक मुल्क किसी दूसरे मुल्क में इशू करता है किसी तीसरे मुल्क की करेंसी में। समझ में आ रही बात आपको? यूरो का मतलब जाहिर है आपको ये बात पता है, यूरो इज एक्चुअली अ करेंसी ऑफ यूरोपियन यूनियन, बट दैट जी यूरोपियन यूनियन की करेंसी है, लेकिन द बॉन्ड्स व्हिच आर कॉल्ड यूरो बॉन्ड्स हैव नथिंग टू डू विद यूरो करेंसी। The euro bonds are only bonds, like say for example, again you want to get money in dollars, but you are issuing bonds in China or you are issuing bonds in Turkey. आपको पता है कि टर्की की करेंसी जो है वो लीरा है, डॉलर्स नहीं है। अगर आप टर्की में बॉन्ड्स इशू कर रहे हैं, अगर आप लोगों से बोरो करना चाहते हैं, लोग इन्वेस्टमेंट करना चाहते हैं डॉलर्स में, तो आप इन्वेस्टमेंट उनसे लें। इस तरह आपको पता है कि हमारे पास अभी एक अकाउंट खुला है, रोशन डिजिटल अकाउंट, सुना है इसके बारे में आप लोगों ने?
Yes, sir.
जी
यस सर सुना है।
So people are depositing in terms of dollars, and why the government is giving them chance to deposit in dollars? Because dollar is a stable currency. तो ये बेसिकली जाहिर है कि ये यूरो बॉन्ड्स हैं। यूरो बॉन्ड्स का, वो बॉन्ड्स का मतलब ये होता है, जिस तरह अगर आप इसकी डेफिनेशन को पढ़ें, देखिए जिस तरह ये है, यूजुअली a euro bond is issued by an international syndicate and categorized according to the currency in which it is denominated. जिस तरह यूरो डॉलर बॉन्ड, अगर यूरो डॉलर बॉन्ड है, अगर आप एक बॉन्ड टर्की में इशू कर रहे हैं, पाकिस्तानी कंपनी या पाकिस्तानी गवर्नमेंट टर्की में एक बॉन्ड इशू कर रही है डॉलर्स में, तो वो जो बॉन्ड है वो क्या कहलाएगा? यूरो डॉलर बॉन्ड। समझ रहे हैं भैया आप लोग बात? अगर आप जो है वो एक बॉन्ड इशू कर रहे हैं पाकिस्तान में, कोई दूसरे मुल्क का, मतलब ऑस्ट्रेलिया एक बॉन्ड इशू कर रहा है पाकिस्तान में और वो इशू कर रहा है येन में, तो ये जो बॉन्ड है वो कहलाएगा यूरो येन बॉन्ड। और अगर आप मिसाल के तौर पर हम इंडिया में एक बॉन्ड इशू कर रहे हैं यूरोज में, यानी आपकी जो करेंसी है, ट्रेडिंग करेंसी है, वो यूरो है, यानी आप यूरो में बोरो करेंगे, यूरो में ही आप पे ऑफ करेंगे, यूरो में ही आप इंटरेस्ट देंगे, तो दैट विल बी कॉल्ड यूरो बॉन्ड। ये समझ रहे हैं भाई आप लोग बात? तो अ यूरो डॉलर बॉन्ड, जिस तरह यहाँ पे एक्सप्लेनेशन दी हुई है, अ यूरो डॉलर बॉन्ड दैट इज डिनोमिनेटेड इन यूएस डॉलर्स एंड इशूड इन जापान बाय एन ऑस्ट्रेलियन कंपनी। कौन सी कंपनी इशू कर रही है? ऑस्ट्रेलियन। कहाँ इशू कर रही है? जापान में। ऑस्ट्रेलिया की करेंसी यूएस डॉलर्स नहीं है, जापान की करेंसी भी यूएस डॉलर नहीं है। The Australia is issuing a bond in Japan, but that bond is taking payments and making payments through US dollars. The Australian company in this example could issue the euro dollar bonds in any country other than the US. Does it make sense to you guys?
Yes, sir.
Any questions? If you have got,
Yes, sir.
to ask. जी. तो ये यूरो डॉलर बॉन्ड्स, यूरो डॉलर बॉन्ड्स, यूरो बॉन्ड्स, यूरो येन बॉन्ड्स, यूरो यॉन बॉन्ड्स, यूरो lira bonds, like they can be different kinds of bonds which are issued at different kind of places, and these bonds basically are definitely, you know, like are issued from one country into some other country in yet another currency. All right. And the foreign bonds are like that, like that, say for example you are issuing the bonds in the US in dollars, in UK in pounds, and in China in yuan.
सर यूरो रुपी बॉन्ड भी हो सकता है अगर हम
Sorry?
पाकिस्तान के यूरो रुपी बॉन्ड भी हो सकता है
जी
अगर
जी
हम पाकिस्तान के ठीक है
जी बिल्कुल, यूरो रुपी बॉन्ड भी हो सकता है अगर कोई खरीदे तो वो यूरो रुपीस तो हम लोग खुद नहीं खरीद रहे हैं। आपको पता है कि इस वक्त पूरे पाकिस्तानी जो है वो लगे हुए हैं कि अपने रुपीस को कन्वर्ट करा ले डॉलर्स में, और इसीलिए स्पेकुलेशंस हो रही हैं बहुत ज्यादा, और इसीलिए आप देख रहे हैं कि हमारा जो हमारा जो एक्सचेंज रेट है अगेंस्ट द डॉलर, इट इज कंटिन्यूअसली वर्सनिंग फॉर द रुपी। तो पाकिस्तानी खुद जो है वो नई रुपी को रखना चाहते हैं। तो जनरली आमतौर पे लोग जो है ये यूरो डॉलर बॉन्ड इशू किए जाते हैं क्योंकि डॉलर इज एन इंटरनेशनल करेंसी, लेकिन दे कैन बी हैविंग अदर करेंसीज एज वेल। ओके, सो वी कॉल इट अ
सर
डे।
ये जो यूरो बॉन्ड्स की